Here I go, here I go, here I go. Yeah, here I go, here I go.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to yet another episode of the Take Podcast. I'm your host, Jackson Burleson, of course. And in today's episode, we've got a lot of NFL content to unpack here. And I'm going to start out with something a little bit different. I usually don't talk about the Chargers, but I feel like we have to. Justin Herbert is out for the season with a broken finger. That is a big blow for the Chargers. I mean, the season was hanging on by a thread anyways, but they were 5-8 with him playing. Now I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. Like, just a disappointing season for the Chargers. I mean, they had a lot of things going wrong, like drop passes, like their offense and defense just not living up to what they're capable of doing. Now, I know Khalil Mack is leading this league in sacks, but when it comes down to the Chargers, I just don't know what they're going to do. Like, I think they should fire Coach Brandon Staley. I think that should be their first obligation that they need to do this offseason. But Justin Herbert this season was fantastic. You can't really take away from anything he did. It's unfortunate. He was kind of dealing with these finger injuries all season long. Like, he hurt his finger in week 4 on his non-throwing hand, and he re-injured it 7 weeks later against the Packers, where in that game, Quentin Johnston possibly dropped a game-winning touchdown there, which is pretty insane if you think about it. But the Chargers, their season has not gone according to plan. I mean, last year they made the playoffs. They blew a 27-point lead. They're just not riding good momentum right now, and there's going to be a lot of changes in Los Angeles for this Chargers organization coming forward. Now, enough of the Chargers. Now, last night, we had 2 Monday night games. We had the Packers versus Giants, and then we also had the Dolphins versus Titans. Now, I'm going to get into the Dolphins versus Titans first because Will Levis last night was sensational. Man had 327 yards passing. And he was flinging the ball. Like, he was delivering some dots. Like, there was this one play where he got destroyed by the Dolphins defensive lineman, and then he just delivered a perfect dot pretty much in triple coverage to DeAndre Hopkins. Somehow found him. I'm like, holy cow. Like, Will Levis reminds me of Ben Roethlisberger and Josh Allen in the same player. Like, I just see the resemblance. Like, he's athletic. He can throw the ball. He can stand in the pocket and take hits and still deliver throws. It's unbelievable. Like, Will Levis is the franchise quarterback of the Titans. They have found their guy finally. And it's crazy because I think the Titans would be at least 500 if Ryan Tannehill didn't start at the beginning of the season. I mean, we're looking at a completely different Titans team if Ryan Tannehill doesn't start. So I think last night for the Titans, that was just a good win to give themselves momentum for next season. Now, they're probably not going to make the playoffs, but the Dolphins, they just lost their chance to get the number 1 seed, in my opinion, because now the Ravens are 10-3, and the Dolphins needed to win that game to keep up with the Ravens, and now they're 9-4, 1 full game back. Like, I don't know if the Dolphins are going to get the number 1 seed now, and my personal opinion, I think the Dolphins, to win a Super Bowl or even get to the Super Bowl, they got to play at Miami in the postseason. They can't be on the road. They're not a good team when it comes to being on the road. Like, playing in cold weather, like, we saw the Dolphins and Bills face off in week 4 earlier in the season. And the Dolphins they just couldn't figure it out up there on the road in Buffalo. I mean, and we all know how Buffalo's going. We'll talk about them in a little bit. But the Dolphins need to figure something out. They need to get it going. Their secondary was low-key getting exposed last night. Like, Jalen Ramsey, like, I don't know what's going on with him. Xavier Howard got banged up. There were a couple injuries. Tyreek Hill injured his ankle last night. He was kind of in and out of the game in the second half, not really in all the time. And it came down to Tua with a minute and like 40-ish seconds left to win them the game. And they could not do it. They could not do it. They had no timeouts. They weren't really managing the clock that well. They were on, like, I think it was like 4th and 2. Tua takes a sack. Like, you got to at least try to make a play downfield. Like, even if nothing is there, like, you got to try to at least do something. And, you know, all these Tua haters, I think they're going to start coming back. And I'm not a Tua hater personally. I mean, I think he's a good player, but you can definitely tell Tyreek Hill is the reason why Tua has been so successful this year. And Tyreek Hill's not even like in the MVP conversation for some reason. Like it's been a weird year when it comes to MVPs. We'll get into that as well later. But Tyreek Hill could have 2,000 yards and may not be able to win it. So the Dolphins lost last night. They dropped one. Now, speaking of the team that dropped a game, the Packers go from 6-6 to 6-7. They lost to the Giants. Tommy DeVito was dotting up last night. What is going on there? Like the Giants, they're like 3-1 with Tommy DeVito at quarterback, and they're 1-5 with Daniel Jones this season. I mean, is Daniel Jones really the guy? Like, what are the Giants going to do? Because they won a game last night. That affects their draft like placement. They're not going to get as high of a pick now because they won that game. So what are the Giants going to do at quarterback? Like Daniel Jones, I don't know if he's the guy. I don't think so. I mean, he hasn't really proved it. So I would say the Giants are not in panic mode, but they need to be like, like they need to be thinking about what Daniel Jones. Now the Packers playoff hopes are still alive. They're still in the 7th seed because the Rams and Seahawks both lost. So they're still in the playoffs. But the fact that they lost to the Giants after coming off an amazing win against the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football, that just killed all the momentum they had. I mean, the Packers have one of the easiest schedules remaining in the NFL. They do. They just got to win games. They just got to win out. And now the Chicago Bears, who, by the way, beat the Detroit Lions on Sunday. Sorry, guys, I'm like scrolling here. I got a couple notes up. So the Lions, they lost again, and the Bears won, which when we're looking at the division here, the Packers are 6-7 now. The Bears are 5-8. So if the Bears win out, that week 18 game against the Packers means so much now. Like that game actually is very important. Circle that on the calendar. That is going to have huge playoff implications. Huge. Justin Fields looked really good against the Lions. The Lions, they need to figure something out because they're not looking like a good football team right now. They're not consistent. They're good. They're talented. I think they can win at least one playoff game. But when it comes to winning and being legit, that I don't think. I don't think the Lions are that legit. I think the Lions are a mid team or a good mid team. They kind of remind me of the Chargers last year a little bit where, they can win games, but they also lose some that they shouldn't be losing. Like, I don't know what's going on there. Like the Lions against the Bears this season, Jared Goff has thrown 5 interceptions against the Bears this year. Like the Lions need to clean up those turnovers. Like they continuously turn over the ball. Continuously. They need to clean that up. They do. And when it comes to taking care of the football, I'm going to name you a guy right now that's doing a great job of that. I'm kind of bouncing out around a little bit here, but the Dallas Cowboys destroyed the Philadelphia Eagles. Anyone know something here? Dak Prescott. 2 interceptions thrown since playing San Francisco and throwing 3. 2 interceptions. He's been playing at an MVP level right now. Now we're going to get into the MVP conversation. Who is MVP? Is it Dak Prescott? Is it Brock Purdy? Or is it even Tyreek Hill for that matter? You could take Jalen Hurts out of that conversation. I think that last game against the Cowboys, you could take him out of that conversation. Now, you can't put Purdy in there. He's arguably the favorite right now. Dak Prescott, I think, has been playing really good football. As good as Purdy. He leads the league in touchdown passes with 28 right now. As a Cowboys fan, I am very pleased to see what Dak Prescott has been doing. Because Dak Prescott, he gets a lot of hate. And I may be one of his biggest critics. Me. Because whenever he has a bad game like he does against San Francisco, I kind of just sit there. I freak out. I hit the panic button. I'm like, Dak's not good. No. I need to stop doing that as a fan personally. Because I feel like all the time I'm just hating on Dak. But this year, he's really proved me wrong. He's really shut me up. He has. He's been great. He's been fantastic. I love the way he's throwing the football. He's finding the open receivers. He's making the right reads. He's confident. He's extending plays with his legs. That is the one thing that I've been most impressed with. He's getting out of trouble when the line collapses. When the pocket collapses, he's getting out of there and he's making something happen. Like, we're finally seeing Dak Prescott reach that level that we thought he was going to reach prior to him, breaking his ankle. We're seeing that now, which I'm very pleased to see that. And our defense, man, woo! Oh, it's legit. I mean, 2 forced fumbles, turnover on downs against the Eagles. We made the Eagles offense look terrible, like genuinely terrible. Like, we were making them so uncomfortable, it's not even funny. And when you look at it this way, right? The Philadelphia Eagles have had 2 bad losses. 2 bad losses. Against the Niners, 42-19, and then against the Cowboys, 33-13. I think the Eagles have lost a lot of confidence. It seems like that to me. Now, they do have a kind of easier schedule, but they got to figure it out, because the Cowboys winning that game puts them at the 2 seed and puts the Eagles at the 5th seed. So that was a very big game, because if the Eagles win that game, they go up 2 games in the division. And then I think the Eagles have the division on lock. But now the Cowboys, I think, have a chance to win the division, because the Cowboys play Buffalo, Miami, Detroit, Washington. Now, the Cowboys playing Buffalo, I think that's going to be a tough game. The Bills are coming off a great win against the Chiefs. Now, I know the Chiefs are not really all that great right now, but the Bills are a good football team. You got to always be aware of Josh Allen. The Dolphins, they just lost the Titans. I'm more confident the Cowboys can win that game personally. And then the Lions. I think the Lions are a W for the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys can go 3-0 in their next games. 4-0. I think they can beat the Commanders as well. Like, even though something always happens with them, which the Commanders are a weird team. But the playoffs are insane right now. They really are. And we're going to do a deeper dive into the playoff picture in a moment. But to finish off the MVP conversation, I think Dak Prescott is the MVP of the NFL right now. And if he continues to play the way he's been playing, not turning the football over, being efficient, making this offense fire at all cylinders, there's no reason he shouldn't win MVP. There's no reason he shouldn't. But this is a weird year for MVP. I will admit that. Now, we're going to talk about a team that lost a game they shouldn't have lost. The Jacksonville Jaguars. They lost to the Cleveland Browns. Okay. Now, the AFC South is tight. You got the Jags at 8-5. You got the Colts at 7-6. And then you got the Texans at 7-6. That's tight. That is a tight division right there. And the AFC playoff picture in general is so tight. So tight. You've got 6 teams that are 7-6 right now. 6. That is insane. That's crazy. It's pretty wide open right now. The Broncos can get in there. I mean, the Bills are in there. I mean, there's a lot of teams. There's a lot of teams that are in there. The AFC South's tight. The Jags aren't running away with this division like I thought they were. And I get it. Trevor Lawrence, he did have an ankle injury coming into the game against the Browns, which the Browns have been the best defense in the NFL this year. No question. I mean, they've been amazing rushing the passer. Their secondary is really good. They forced 3 interceptions by Trevor Lawrence in this game. And Joe Flacco, man, I know Joe Flacco's old, but he's been playing some really good football recently. I mean, especially if you got him in fantasy. I mean, he's been putting up 20 points every week. I mean, wait, ready, hot. Like, I didn't think I would ever hear that cadence ever again. I didn't think I'd ever hear it. Like, I mean, it's good to see Joe Flacco back. I mean, it is kind of cool. I mean, it's weird to see him in a Browns uniform wearing number 15. But the fact that he's still in the league is pretty bizarre to me. It is bizarre. I mean, let me know if you guys in the comments agree with me if it's bizarre that Joe Flacco's still in the league and winning football games on top of that. But the fact is, the Browns, they're staying alive. Even without Deshaun Watson, they're staying alive. Now, the thing about the AFC is okay. It has a lot of uncertainty, but it's deep. That's the thing. And there's been a lot of injuries at quarterback in the AFC. Like, talk about Rodgers, Herbert, Burrow. Like, I mean, it's been kind of wild. Kind of wild. Watson. Like, it's been Kenny Pickett, which we'll talk about Kenny Pickett later. But it's been pretty nuts. And especially in general for like the league. Like, there's been 55 starting quarterbacks in the NFL this year. Like what? That is a ton. If you think about that, that is a lot. That is actually insane to me. Like, I can't believe that that there's really been that many. But the Jags, they need to figure out what they're doing here. And they had a couple questionable play calls, Doug Peterson. You guys decided to go for 2 instead of making it a 3-point game, which down the stretch, that's not really ideal because you want to kick the extra point to give you guys a chance. I'm not sure what they're doing there, but questionable calls. Now, let's talk about something that was fantastic. Fantastic. Ravens-Rams. Overtime thriller. Punt return touchdown. Insane punt return touchdown. Tylan Wallace. He's not even the starting punt returner. Not even. He was the backup punt returner. And he took it to the house in a game that I didn't know who was going to win. Because going in, it was tied. The Rams were playing good football. Matthew Stafford looked like he'd go down the field. Cooper Kupp was having a day. But the Ravens, they figured it out. Oh, yeah, and I forgot. The Ravens had that one play when Lamar Jackson didn't see the snap and he had to kick the ball in the end zone as a safety. That was annoying as well. I was like, man, it's getting rough for the Ravens right now, but they figured it out. They're winning without Mark Andrews. They're the number 1 seed without Mark Andrews. That's very, very key for them to get some rest, not be banged up going into the playoffs. Because if the Ravens want to have a chance to win a Super Bowl, which I think it's still there. I know I said in previous podcasts that Mark Andrews, their Super Bowl hopes have gone out the window. But I think as long as you got Lamar Jackson in a Ravens uniform, I think you always have a chance if you're the Ravens. I think you always have a chance. But the Rams gave him a game. They really did. And that was the best game of the weekend, in my opinion. Rams versus Ravens. I think that was the best game. Like, if you guys watched that, I think that was the best game. Like, Tylan Wallace just ending. That was a second punt return touchdown of the season this year. Like, that's pretty remarkable if you ask me. Like, that's cool. That's really cool. And kudos to him. He's a backup punter. So I really want to see that. Now, speaking of backups, I think this is probably the funniest story to me. So Texans played the Jets, right? In MetLife Stadium, the Jets are at home. 0-0 at halftime. I'm giving you guys a picture here. 0-0 at halftime. CJ Stroud threw for like 26 or 28 yards. It was around there. I'm sorry I don't have the correct number. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think he threw for 26 yards or 28 yards. One of those two. In the first half. And he got a concussion in the second half, by the way. The status, we don't know when he's going to come back yet. But Zach Wilson threw for like 209 yards in the second half. He had 92 in the first half. 92 to 98. God, I don't have these numbers in front of me. But 92 or 98. One of those two. I know it's around there. He threw for 300 yards in the game. Okay? And the Jets let him know that he's going to be traded next year. He will be. He should. And the fact that he had a game like that, very efficient, throwing 2 touchdowns, I mean, in the second half, I mean, that's pretty solid. I mean, you're proving that you can still play. I mean, there's no question that Zach Wilson can still play. I mean, he definitely can. It's just, is he going to be consistently good like that? Like, consistency is all you need in the NFL. And that's the one thing that Zach Wilson really lacks. He really lacks that consistency. But 30-6 against the Texans, You're keeping the Jets' playoff hopes alive mathematically. Now, I don't know if the Jets are going to make the playoffs because Aaron Rodgers is still trying to come back. So who knows if they try to make the playoffs. But Aaron Rodgers is doing something that I think he's going to come back regardless because he wants to make history. He wants to be like the first person to tear his Achilles and then come back in the same season. That'd be pretty cool. Now, do I think it's the right move for him in his future? No, because he has a chance of re-injuring it and making it even worse and just ending his career. But I'm getting a little off topic there. But the Jets, they looked good yesterday, and so did Zach Wilson. And this team believes in him. Zach Wilson looks happy, but he only looks happy when he plays well. So, they had to cut Tim Boyle for him to come back in the game and do this. So it just tells you the kind of belief they got in that guy. Now, the Panthers, they drop another game again. They're for sure going to give the Bears the number 1 pick. That trade was horrendous. They've only won 1 game this year. I don't think the Panthers are going to win another game all season. The fact that they gave up DJ Moore for Bryce Young, I mean, that's terrible. That's terrible to me. But this NFC South is the worst division in football. Not one team is over 500. Not one. So you got the Bucks in first place, who hold the 4th seed in the NFC right now at 6-7. Saints are 6-7. Falcons are 6-7. The Bucks won a big game against the Falcons, barely, because Desmond Ridder underthrew Drake London, who, by the way, got me 30 fantasy points this week. Got me 30. Kudos to Drake London. But that division is terrible. Now, whoever comes out of that division is going to lose a playoff game. 100%. 100%. And I think if I'm not mistaken, right now, I think the Buccaneers, since they're at the 4, they would play the Eagles in the first round. I'm pretty sure. And that would be a beating. That'd be a slaughter. Like, you're just putting the Buccaneers in there to get slaughtered. Like, that's the NFC South for you right there. Now, playoffs, I mean, the 49ers clinched. They were the first team to clinch their playoff spot. They are scaring me because they beat the Cowboys 42-10, and then they beat the Eagles 42-19. They look unstoppable. Their defense is insane. Their offense is insane. They got so many weapons. And Purdy, you can say whatever you want to say about Brock Purdy, but I think he's genuinely a good quarterback. It's just hard to evaluate him because he's got so much talent. But that dot that he delivered to Deebo Samuel, I know you guys saw that play. I'll put it up on the screen if you guys didn't see it. I'll kind of talk over it. Purdy steps up in the pocket, delivers a perfect throw. Deebo doesn't even have to slow down in his route to catch that pass. Touchdown. I don't like the Niners at all, but that's a beautiful throw. That's probably the best throw I've seen all season from him. That was a great throw. That might have been the best throw this season that I've seen. So that says a lot. Like Brock Purdy, a guy who's getting paid like $900,000 a year right now, he's getting paid. That man is going to get paid at some point. I wonder what his contract's going to be, but he is going to get paid. That man ain't leaving San Francisco. No way. They found their quarterback. He's the guy. It's a pretty remarkable story if you really look at Brock Purdy. Last pick in the draft, Iowa State. Didn't really play much, and then he gets his chance. As soon as Jimmy G goes down, Trey Lance doesn't really pan out. He gets injured. That's how you wait for your moment. That's like a Tom Brady moment right there. Now, I'm not comparing Brock Purdy to Tom Brady, so everyone don't panic. But in that game, the Seahawks were hanging around against the Niners, but then the Niners just proved to be too much. Now, Bills versus Chiefs. Now, we'll get into that game as well. I have something to say about Patrick Mahomes right now. For him to come up to Josh Allen after the game and say that's one of the wildest calls I've ever seen. He said something that was one of the terriblest calls or wildest calls, whatever he said. That's bad sportsmanship. That's really bad sportsmanship. I think all the frustration from Patrick Mahomes' receivers not catching the ball, like Valdez-Scantling dropping the game-winning touchdown against the Eagles, Kadarius Toney being in the neutral zone on that final play against the Bills when Kelsey lateraled to him. I think there's just a lot of frustration built up with Patrick Mahomes right now. That's the first time I've really seen him mad. I was talking to a Chiefs fan yesterday, and that's the first he was ready. He was ready for that. I was all holding in for all season, but I think Mahomes just needs to stop being a baby now. I know he can't see it on the field, but the refs made the right call. And especially when you go into the post-game press conference, you probably have seen the play. So I think you need to understand, like, don't say this is a disgrace of football. That's a great play. Yeah, no doubt. Like, that's a pretty cool play. Like a lateral. Like, I mean, that's awesome. But if it doesn't count, it doesn't count. So I wouldn't just sit there and be like, like I didn't get my way. Like, no. Like, no. Just take your loss like a man. Don't go up to Josh Allen after the game and have bad shortsmanship. Because Josh Allen, give the man a break. Like, he's lost to you so many times. Give that guy a break. He loses. Like, give Josh Allen a break, man. Give him a break. But finally, we're going to talk about one more game before we end the pod here. This was the worst game of the season, not even close. Raiders Vikings. It was terrible. It was horrendous. Terrible. 0-0 the whole game until the Vikings kicked the game-winning field goal. With like 2 minutes left or a minute left, I think. Josh Dobbs got hurt. Justin Jefferson came back in that game, got hurt again. And that hit he took, that was nasty. Like, he got hit pretty weird. Like, he had to be rushed to the hospital. And that just sucks because he was working so hard to get back from that hamstring injury, and then he just gets hurt first game back. How unfortunate is that? Like, Like, the Vikings they've had some really bad injuries to some of their key players, like Kirk Cousins, obviously, and now Justin Jefferson just came back, and now he's hurt again, and then Josh Dobbs gets hurt. Like, they just can't seem to catch a break. They really can't. The playoffs are starting to form up a little bit, and then in the next like 4 weeks, we're gonna have a better understanding, obviously, of what the seedings are gonna be. The Cowboys, they need to keep winning to get that number 1 seed. I would love for us to be at home for the playoffs this year. That'd be nice. But this has been another episode of the Take Podcast. Let me know what you guys think of this episode. Please subscribe, like the video, and also share this with your friends. Let your friends know that I got some football takes for them. Let me know what you think of my takes, if you agree or disagree with them. But this is Jackson Burleson right here, the host of the Take Podcast, by the way, if you guys didn't know. I'm just kidding. Thank you guys for listening to the episode, and you guys take care. Peace.
Talk to me, baby. Talk to me nice. I'm from another world, baby, yeah. Red way paradise. They think I'm way too cold, cause I put my heart up.